Daniel Kahneman, the only psychologist to ever win the Nobel Prize in economics, spent 40 years studying why intelligent people make terrible financial decisions. And he discovered that the most dangerous moment for your money isn't when you have nothing. It's exactly when you get paid. In those first 72 seconds after the money hits your account, your brain activates a cognitive bias so powerful it can destroy any financial plan. But there's one specific action that completely neutralizes it. This isn't about budgeting. It's not about discipline. It's about understanding how your System 1 brain hijacks your financial decisions, and how to use your System 2 to intercept it before it happens. In this video, I'm going to reveal exactly what Kahneman discovered about this critical moment, the 5 cognitive biases that sabotage your money, and the one strategy he recommends doing before any other financial decision. You know that feeling? It's Friday afternoon. You check your phone. The notification pops up. Deposit received, and for about 5 seconds you feel rich. You feel like you have options. You feel like maybe, just maybe, this month is going to be different. And that feeling, that exact feeling right there, that's where everything goes wrong. Because here's what Kahneman discovered in his Nobel Prize-winning research. Your brain doesn't treat money as money. It treats different sources of money as completely different things. He called this mental accounting, and it's one of the most destructive patterns in behavioral economics. Think about it. If you find a $20 bill on the street, you'll probably spend it on something fun. Maybe grab dinner out, maybe buy that book you've been eyeing. No guilt. It's found money. But if someone hands you $20 as change from a $100 bill you broke, you'll probably tuck it back in your wallet. You'll count it as real money that needs to be protected. Same $20, same purchasing power. Completely different mental categories. And Kahneman proved this isn't just a quirk, it's a systematic bias that affects every financial decision you make. In his research on prospect theory, he demonstrated that we create these arbitrary mental accounts: salary money, bonus money, tax refund money, gift money, and we treat each one by completely different rules. But here's where it gets dangerous. The moment your paycheck hits your account, your brain automatically categorizes it as new money, not existing money, not money you already had, new money, fresh money, money that doesn't have the same weight, the same responsibility, the same rules as the money that was there yesterday. Studies in behavioral economics show that this mental accounting trick makes us 43% more likely to make impulsive purchases in the first 48 hours after receiving payment, not because we're undisciplined, not because we don't care about our future, but because our brain literally perceives that money differently than it will perceive the exact same dollars 3 days later. It's like your brain has 2 completely different accountants. One shows up when you get paid and says, "Hey, look at all this extra money we can play with." The other shows up 2 days later and says, "Wait, what happened to all our money? We had a plan." And here's the thing that makes this so insidious. You don't even notice it happening. You think you're being rational. You think you're making conscious choices. But Kahneman's research proved that these mental accounts activate automatically, unconsciously, before your rational brain even gets a chance to weigh in. The money in your account right now, your brain sees it one way. The money in your account when you get paid, your brain will see it completely differently. Same account, same dollars. Totally different mental framework. But mental accounting is just the first bias. The next one is so subtle that you probably committed this error in the last 30 days without even realizing it. And when these 2 biases combine, they create a perfect storm of financial irrationality. So Kahneman is famous for discovering something called the endowment effect. Here's how it works. Once you own something, you value it way more than you did before you owned it. The classic experiment: give someone a coffee mug, ask them how much they'd sell it for. They say $7. Ask someone else how much they'd pay for the same mug. They say $3, same mug. Just the act of ownership made it worth more than twice as much in the owner's mind. We overvalue what we possess. That's the standard endowment effect. But here's what researchers discovered about money, and this is where it gets really scary. With unallocated money, with cash that just arrived in your account, we do the exact opposite. We undervalue it. We treat it like it's worth less than it actually is. Think about it. You've got $2,000 sitting in your account that's been there for 2 weeks. That feels precious. That feels like real money. You're careful with it. You think twice before spending it, but that same $2,000, the moment it hits your account, it feels different. It feels somehow lighter, more spendable, less serious. Behavioral economists call this the windfall effect. Even when it's money you earned, money you expected, money you literally worked for, your brain treats it like a windfall, like free money, like money that doesn't count the same way. And this creates an illusion, the illusion of extra money, the illusion that this money is separate from your financial life, from your obligations, from your future. It's not rent money yet. It's not grocery money yet. It's not retirement money yet. It's just money, undefined money. And undefined money feels like it's okay to spend. Research in behavioral finance shows that we're 67% more likely to make discretionary purchases with money in the first 24 hours after it arrives than with money that's been in our account for a week. Not because the money changed, because our perception of it changed. But here's where Kahneman's research gets really specific, really practical, really powerful. Based on decades of work in behavioral economics, Kahneman identified that impulsive financial decisions are dominated by what he calls System 1 thinking, fast, emotional, automatic. Your System 1 sees money hit the account and immediately starts generating feelings: excitement, possibility, relief, entitlement. I've been working hard. I deserve something nice. It's just this once. I'll start saving next month. System 1 is fast. System 1 is persuasive. System 1 feels right, but there's a System 2, slow, analytical, rational. And System 2 is the part of your brain that actually understands long-term consequences, that can resist immediate gratification, that can stick to a plan. Here's the critical discovery. You have a window, a small window. Research suggests it's somewhere between 2 to 3 minutes after you see that money in your account. In that window, System 2 is still active. It can still intervene. It can still make the decision. After that window closes, System 1 takes over. And once System 1 is in control of a financial decision, it's incredibly hard for System 2 to override it. It's not impossible, but it requires massive willpower. And willpower, as Kahneman proved, is an unreliable resource. So you've got roughly 180 seconds. That's it. Less time than it takes to make a cup of coffee. In those 180 seconds, you either activate System 2 and make a rational decision, or you let System 1 run the show and deal with the regret later. And here's what most people don't realize: the simple act of seeing that balance, of checking your account, of getting that notification that already activated 3 different cognitive biases. Mental accounting sorted it into new money. The reverse endowment effect made it feel less valuable. And you're about to trigger the next one. Now, get ready, because the next bias is what separates people who build wealth from people who always say they'll start next month. Let me ask you something. Would you rather have $100 today or $150 in 30 days? If you're like most people, your gut says $100 today. Even though rationally, mathematically, obviously $150 is more valuable. That's a 50% return in 1 month. No investment on earth reliably does that, but it doesn't feel that way, does it? 100 today feels real. 100 today feels certain. $100 today feels like it has weight, like it has power. 50 in 30 days? That feels theoretical. That feels far away. That feels like it might not even happen. Kahneman and his colleagues documented this pattern extensively. They called it present bias, or hyperbolic discounting. We systematically overvalue immediate rewards and undervalue delayed ones, not by a little, by a lot. And here's what this does to your financial decisions. Every dollar you have right now feels worth more than the same dollar in the future. So saving for next month feels like you're losing money. Investing for retirement feels like you're throwing money away. Building an emergency fund feels like you're depriving yourself. Your rational brain knows these things are important. Your System 2 understands compound interest, understands security, understands future needs. But your System 1 is screaming, but we could use this money right now for something that makes us feel good right now. And when you get paid, when that money hits your account, present bias goes into overdrive. Because now you're not choosing between abstract concepts. You're choosing between a concrete pleasure today, that restaurant meal, that online purchase, that thing you've been wanting, and an abstract benefit tomorrow. Research in behavioral economics shows this bias destroys long-term financial planning. It's why people with good incomes still live paycheck to paycheck. It's why someone can understand the math of retirement savings and still not save. It's why we make financial decisions we know we'll regret and then make them again next month. But present bias isn't working alone. There's another bias running in parallel, and this one is even more invisible. Kahneman's research on anchoring showed that the first number we see becomes a reference point for all decisions that follow. In classic experiments, he'd show people a random number, say 65. Then ask them to estimate something completely unrelated, like the percentage of African countries in the UN. People who saw 65 would guess higher than people who saw 10. The anchor affected their judgment even when it was totally irrelevant. Now apply this to money. You get paid. You check your account. You see the total, $4,500. That number, $4,500, just became your anchor. And every financial decision you make in the next few hours will be measured against it. It's just $200 for those shoes. That's only 4% of my paycheck. The $80 dinner, that's less than 2% of what I have. That $45 subscription, that's nothing compared to the total. You're not evaluating these purchases in absolute terms. You're not asking, is $200 a reasonable price for shoes I don't urgently need? You're asking, is $200 a lot compared to $4,500? And because the anchor is so high, everything seems small. Everything seems affordable. Everything seems reasonable. Studies show this anchoring effect makes us spend 30-40% more in the days immediately after payday compared to identical purchases made later in the month. Because later in the month, we're anchored to a smaller number. Later in the month, that same $200 feels like a much bigger portion of what we have left. The anchor distorts reality. It makes you think you're being reasonable when you're actually being reckless. It makes you think you can afford things you can't. It makes you underestimate costs and overestimate your financial flexibility. So let's take stock of where you are right now. Your mental accounting categorized your paycheck as new money that plays by different rules. The reverse endowment effect made it feel less valuable than it actually is. Present bias is pushing you toward immediate gratification. And the anchoring effect is making every expense seem small and manageable. Your system 1 is in control. And you don't even realize it, but there's still one more bias. And this one's the worst, because when it's active, you actually think you're being rational. Let me show you. Here's Kahneman's most famous discovery, the one that won him the Nobel Prize, loss aversion. We feel losses about twice as intensely as we feel equivalent gains. Lose 100? That pain is sharp. It's memorable. It sticks with you. Gain 100? Nice. But the pleasure is muted. It fades quickly. This is why people hold losing investments too long. The pain of realizing the loss is too intense. It's why we stay in bad situations. The fear of losing what we have outweighs the potential for something better. Loss aversion shapes everything. It's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. But here's what researchers discovered about new money, about money that just arrived in your account. Loss aversion inverts. It flips. It works backwards. When money has been in your account for a while, loss aversion works normally. Spending it feels like a loss. You protect it. You're cautious. You feel the pain of seeing the balance go down, but when money just arrived, the fear isn't losing the money. The fear is losing the opportunity to use it. Let me say that again because it's critical. With new money, we fear missing the chance to spend more than we fear the spending itself. That sale ends tonight, you feel urgency. That limited edition drops today, you feel scarcity. That experience is only available now, you feel FOMO, fear of missing out. And that fear, that sense of potential loss if you don't act, actually overrides your rational understanding that spending the money is the real loss. Your system 1 has reframed the entire situation. It's not, I might lose money by spending. It's, I might lose this opportunity by not spending. And this is insidious because it feels rational. It feels like you're being smart. This is 40% off. If I don't buy it now, I'm losing money. No, you're not losing money by not buying something. You're losing money by buying something. But the inverted loss aversion makes it impossible to see clearly. Research in consumer psychology shows this is why retailers time sales around paydays. They know, they understand the bias. They know that when you just got paid, you're vulnerable to opportunity-based loss aversion. You're afraid of missing out. You're afraid of losing the chance. You're afraid you'll regret not taking advantage of this moment. And here's what makes this so effective, so destructive. This inverted loss aversion combines with all the other biases we've talked about. The mental accounting says, this is new money. It plays by different rules. The reverse endowment effect says, this money isn't that valuable anyway. Present bias says, future me can handle the consequences. Anchoring says, this purchase is tiny compared to what I have. And inverted loss aversion says, if I don't spend this now, I'll lose the opportunity forever. It's a perfect storm. Every cognitive bias is pointing in the same direction. Spend now, think later, and your system 1, your fast, emotional, automatic brain, is running the show. It's generating feelings of urgency, of excitement, of entitlement, of justification. And it's doing it so smoothly, so seamlessly, that you genuinely believe you're making a rational choice. You're not being manipulated by external forces. You're being manipulated by your own brain, by cognitive machinery that evolved for a completely different environment, for immediate threats and immediate opportunities, not for complex financial planning in a modern economy. Kahneman spent his entire career documenting this. We're not irrational in random ways. We're predictably irrational. We make the same cognitive errors in the same situations with remarkable consistency, and the moment you get paid, that's when all these predictable errors align. That's when you're most vulnerable. That's when your System 1 is most powerful and your System 2 is most easily overridden. So you've got 5 biases running simultaneously. Mental accounting treating it as new money. Reverse endowment effect making it feel less valuable. Present bias saying now is better. Anchoring making everything seem small compared to the total. And inverted loss aversion screaming, I'll miss the opportunity. Your System 1 is in complete control. Your System 2 doesn't stand a chance. And you're about to make financial decisions that you'll regret in 3 days, unless you understand what Kahneman actually recommended. Because after 40 years studying financial irrationality, his advice wasn't what you'd expect. It goes against everything you've learned about personal finance. Let me show you. So after documenting all these biases, after proving that we're predictably irrational, after showing that our System 1 hijacks our financial decisions at the worst possible moments, what did Kahneman recommend? Here it is. Don't try to fight the biases. Don't rely on willpower. Don't think you can just be more disciplined. Instead, design a system where the rational decision happens before the biases activate. Kahneman and his colleagues. Richard Thaler called this choice architecture. The idea is simple but profound. If you can't trust yourself to make good decisions in the moment, make the decision before the moment arrives. They identified something called commitment devices, ways to lock yourself into good behavior before temptation hits. It's like Ulysses tying himself to the mast before sailing past the sirens. He knew he couldn't trust himself in the moment, so he made the choice beforehand. And here's the specific application to money. The best defense against those 5 cognitive biases isn't what you do after you get paid. It's what you decide before you get paid. Think about it. All those biases activate when you see the money in your account. Mental accounting kicks in when you see the deposit. Anchoring happens when you see the total. Present bias and inverted loss aversion start influencing you the moment you know the money is there. So what if you never gave those biases a chance to activate? What if before you even saw the money, before you even knew it had arrived, it was already allocated, already distributed, already assigned to specific purposes? Not by you in the moment, pressured by System 1, by you beforehand, when System 2 was in control. This is what Kahneman and Thaler called pre-commitment. Make the hard decision when it's easy to make, so you don't have to make the hard decision when it's hard to make. Here's what this looks like in practice. You set up automatic transfers that execute the moment your paycheck arrives. Not after. Not when you remember. The moment the money hits your account, it moves. 20% to savings, it's already gone before you see the balance. 15% to investments, already distributed before the notification pops up. 10% to your emergency fund, already separated before you check your phone. And here's the crucial part, the part that makes this actually work. You never see the total. You never see that big number that becomes the anchor. You never activate the mental accounting that says new money. You never trigger the reverse endowment effect because the money is already categorized, already owned by specific future needs. By the time you actually look at your account, you're not seeing $4,500. You're seeing $2,275, what's left after the automatic allocations. And $2,475 becomes your anchor. Your mental accounting treats it differently. Your biases don't activate the same way. Behavioral economics research shows this works because it aligns with how your brain actually functions. Your System 1 isn't wrong, it's just optimized for different problems. So instead of fighting it, you work with it. You use System 2 when it's strongest, when you're not under pressure, when you're planning rather than reacting, to set up a structure that makes System 1's automatic responses work in your favor. This isn't about discipline. This isn't about willpower. This isn't about being smarter or working harder. It's about understanding that you are predictably irrational and designing your financial life around that reality. Kahneman always emphasized this. We're not randomly irrational. We're systematically biased. And if the biases are systematic, the The solutions can be systematic too. The genius of this approach is that it doesn't require you to change who you are. It doesn't require you to overcome your nature. It just requires you to acknowledge your nature and build systems that account for it. Studies show that people who use this kind of pre-commitment strategy save 40-60% more than people with identical incomes who rely on willpower. Not because they're more disciplined, because they made one rational decision beforehand that eliminated the need for 1,000 disciplined decisions afterward. You set it up once. Your system 2 programs the system, and then your system 1 just lives within it. It doesn't feel restrictive because by the time you're making spending decisions, this is your money. This is what you have. The rest was never really yours to spend. It was already committed to future you. But here's the critical part. There's a right way and 5 wrong ways to implement this. And the difference is in how you structure the rule to actually outsmart your own system 1. Let me show you exactly how. Okay, so you understand the principle. Pre-commitment. Automatic allocation. Decide before the biases activate. But here's where most people screw this up. They set up the automation, they feel proud of themselves, and then 3 months later, they've undone it all. Why? Because they made one of 5 critical mistakes in the implementation. Let me walk you through the right way to do this, based on what behavioral economics research actually shows works. First, the order matters. When that money hits your account, the sequence of where it goes isn't arbitrary. It has psychological weight. Kahneman's research on mental accounting shows that we emotionally prioritize the first thing that happens. So here's the rule. Future you gets paid first. The sequence, savings and investment accounts first, and these should be completely separate institutions, hard to access. Then fixed obligations that build assets, like mortgage payments. Then essential expenses like utilities, groceries, insurance. And finally, discretionary spending gets whatever's left. Why this order? Because if discretionary comes first, even if you plan to save what's left over, your system 1 will expand spending to consume what's available. But if savings comes first, your system 1 adapts to the remaining amount. It's the same total, but the psychological experience is completely different. Second, invisibility is critical. This is the piece most people miss. They set up automatic transfers, but they still see the total balance first. They still get the notification. $4,500 deposited. That notification? That already activated the anchoring bias. That already triggered mental accounting. The damage is done even if the transfers happen afterward. The solution? Split direct deposits at the source if possible. If your employer allows it, have your paycheck deposited into multiple accounts automatically. Some goes to checking, some to savings, some to investment, before it ever consolidates into one number you can see. If that's not possible, set up the transfers to execute immediately, within minutes of deposit, so you never even check the account before they happen. The goal is to never see the total, never activate the anchor, never give System 1 that big number to play with. Third, use mental accounting in your favor. Remember, Kahneman showed we create these mental accounts whether we want to or not. So instead of fighting it, use it strategically. Don't just save money in a savings account. Create specific mental accounts. Emergency fund, home down payment, kids' education, retirement. Research shows that when money is mentally categorized for a specific purpose, we're 3 to 4 times less likely to rate it for other uses. The mental account creates a barrier. Your System 1 treats emergency fund money differently than it treats savings money, so give everything a name. Give everything a purpose. Use your brain's natural tendency to categorize to protect your future. Fourth, build in a forced delay for discretionary spending. Here's where you neutralize present bias. After all the automatic allocations, whatever's left goes into your daily spending account. But, and this is crucial, that account should have one specific rule. Set up a 48-hour waiting period for any discretionary purchase over $50, or whatever threshold makes sense for you. Not physically forced. You could override it if you wanted, but psychologically forced, a rule you've committed to. Why 48 hours? Because research shows that's about how long it takes for present bias to weaken, for System 2 to catch up, for you to actually evaluate whether you want the thing or just wanted the feeling of getting the thing. Half of the purchases you delay will never happen. You'll realize you didn't actually want it. You wanted relief from present bias. And once that pressure fades, the desire fades with it. Fifth, review and adjust with System 2. This isn't set it and forget it, because your life changes. Your income changes, your needs change, but, and this is critical, you only review and adjust when System 2 is in control, not in the moment. Not when you want something, not when you're feeling the pressure of present bias or loss aversion. Set a quarterly review. Literally put it on the calendar. On that day, when you're not under any immediate financial pressure, you reassess. Are the percentages still right? Are the goals still relevant? Do the allocations still serve future you? And you make adjustments thoughtfully, analytically, rationally. Then you lock in those adjustments for another 3 months. This keeps the system flexible enough to adapt to reality, but rigid enough to protect you from your biases. The complete system. Pre-commitment percentages decided when System 2 is in control. Automatic execution before you see the total. Specific mental accounts with clear purposes. Forced delay on discretionary spending. And quarterly reviews in a rational state. Studies in behavioral economics show the system works because it doesn't fight your psychology. It works with it. It acknowledges you're going to have biases, you're going to have System 1 responses, you're going to have moments of irrationality, but it contains those moments. It limits their damage. It makes the rational choice the default choice, and the irrational choice require effort to execute. You're not becoming a different person. You're just becoming a person whose financial system is designed for the brain you actually have. Not the brain you wish you had, and when you do this consistently, something extraordinary happens to your financial brain. Let me show you what that transformation actually looks like. Here's what Kahneman always emphasized. You are not randomly irrational. You are predictably irrational, and that word, predictably, that's actually the good news. Because if your cognitive biases are predictable, you can design systems that account for them. You can build structures that work with your brain instead of against it. But there's something else that happens when you consistently use this kind of pre-commitment system, something Kahneman documented extensively in his research on decision-making. Your System 1 learns, not consciously, not deliberately, but through repetition, through pattern, your automatic brain starts to rewire itself. In the first month, it's hard. Your System 1 is still fighting. You see money moving to savings, and you feel loss. You want to override the system. You want to make exceptions. By month 3, it's neutral. The transfers happen, and you notice but don't react strongly. It's just part of the routine. By month 6, it's automatic. You don't even think about the money that was allocated. In your mind, your paycheck is what lands in your spending account. The rest was never really yours. It belonged to future you from the start. Research in behavioral finance shows this shift is measurable. People who use pre-commitment systems for 6 months or more show significantly reduced activation of present bias, reduced anchoring effects, and more rational long-term decision-making. Not because they became more disciplined, but because their System 1 adapted to the new reality. 20, and here's what that looks like in practice. After a year of automatic allocation, studies show the average person has saved 40 to 60% more than they would have with willpower alone. After 3 years, they've built emergency funds, made investment progress, created financial buffers that change their entire relationship with money. But the wealth isn't even the main transformation. The main transformation is psychological. It's waking up and not feeling that low-grade financial anxiety. It's seeing unexpected expenses and having the systems to handle them. It's making decisions from a place of security rather than scarcity. It's the feeling, quiet, undramatic, but profound, of knowing that future you is taken care of. Because past, you made one good decision, set up one good system, and let it run. Kahneman proved that we're not bad with money because we're stupid or lazy or undisciplined. We're bad with money because our brains are running software designed for a completely different environment. But once you understand that, really understand it, you stop fighting yourself. You stop thinking the answer is more willpower, more discipline, more effort. Instead, you design for the brain you have. You set up systems that make the hard choices automatic. You let System 2 do what it does best, plan, analyze, strategize, and you let System 1 do what it does best, execute patterns without thinking. And the beautiful thing? It works. Not perfectly, not without occasional adjustments, but consistently, measurably, predictably. Because you're not trying to change human nature. You're just working with it intelligently. So here's what we covered. The moment you get paid, 5 cognitive biases activate simultaneously. Mental accounting, reverse endowment effect, present bias, anchoring, and inverted loss aversion. And together, they hijack your financial decisions before your rational brain even gets a chance to weigh in. If this gave you clarity, subscribe. so you don't miss the next video on how cognitive biases affect every financial decision you make. But here's Kahneman's core insight. You don't fight the biases. You design around them, you use pre-commitment. You automate allocation before System 1 activates. You make the rational choice when it's easy, so you don't have to make it when it's hard. Remember, these psychological shifts are necessary but not sufficient. Your mindset matters, and your circumstances matter. Both are true. This is about better decisions within your reality, not guaranteeing outcomes. Your challenge, before you get your next paycheck, set up one automatic transfer. Just one, 10% to a separate savings account. Execute before you see the total. That's it. One allocation, one pre-commitment. One time your System 2 protects future you from your System 1. Comment below, which of these 5 biases did you recognize most in yourself? Because the next time you get paid, you've got 180 seconds. Either you use your System 2 to program the decision beforehand, or your System 1 will program the regret afterward. Kahneman proved it. The most dangerous moment can become the most powerful moment. The choice is yours.